Back in the day, when I was a tiny 6-year-old in Ukraine, I used to get up at 6 a.m. on every Saturday morning to watch one show, and that was Sailor Moon. Today, I'm gonna paint Sailor Moon in my own style in watercolor. I made a sketch of the painting I wanted to create after looking for some Sailor Moon Eternal inspiration. I love her more intricate outfits, and I definitely wanted to do one of those. I also didn't want to draw a completely realistic or a completely anime portrait, so I did an in-between style. Let me know what you guys think of it, since this was my first time trying it. I actually struggled quite a bit transferring the quick sketch from my sketchbook to the watercolor paper. It flowed so easily when I was drawing it the first time, but I could not exactly translate what I wanted to the finished paper. I struggled with the eyes quite a bit especially. I thought they were great in the original, a little bit defiant and challenging, but still open and welcoming. She's a little bit more cute in the finished sketch, almost like a Bratz doll. I also somehow forgot that the watercolor paper is much rougher. I broke out my fancy schmancy Arches 140-pound cold press paper, and it definitely has some tooth to it. I think this is part of the reason why the sketch didn't go exactly how I wanted it to. It just was not as smooth as I was used to, and it did not transfer exactly how I wanted to. After the sketch, I waffled pretty heavily on adding ink and decided to go for it, since I always do like a little bit of ink to make my drawings pop, especially since I was drawing anime, which is very focused on the line art. However, I also struggled with the tooth of the paper here a little bit as well. I think I broke the nib of my 005 micron pen because I just wasn't used to how hard I should press to get the line quality that I want. I was used to drawing smooth lines on my mixed media sketchbook, and trust me, I had a lot of practice with ink since I had just finished Inktober at this point, but the paper was not very forgiving and it definitely made some missed lines even though I was trying very hard to be careful and precise. For the actual watercolor process, I started with the background making a glowing moon and a light blue sky. As with almost all watercolors, patience really was the key since I knew that layers and layers were going to be needed to make the image come to life. For painting Sailor Moon, I started going with light and then building up to dark, adding shadows and shadows along the way. And I also really tried to choose very intentional colors that are similar to her costume, but a little bit more muted and a little bit more realistic. I remember when I first started watching Sailor Moon, and the very first things I loved was the costumes. I loved the colors. I loved how each girl had her own personality in the colors that she wore, and I loved the transformations too, from regular schoolgirls to these guardian angels of the universe. I don't remember exactly if Sailor Moon or Pokemon was the very first cartoon or anime that I saw. I think it was Sailor Moon. And that definitely inspired my love for this style, and I watched Cardcaptor Sakura after that too. If anyone knows that show, that is also one of my favorites, and I'd love to do some drawings from that one as well. I think watching all of these shows as a kid definitely made it a lot easier for me to visualize how to draw anime. I think I've seen so much of it. For example, I picked up the pencil again for real this time, which I would definitely call the start of my drawing journey, when I watched Avatar: The Last Airbender during the pandemic, and I decided to draw all the characters into little character sheets. And that was kind of the kickoff to taking drawing a lot more seriously. After a couple rounds of painting and drying, I added the metallic accents, which are some of my favorite parts, especially the stripes on her collar. As a last finish, I added white highlights around the face and eyes to give her a little bit more pop. And there you guys have it, a semi-realistic Sailor Moon watercolor. Let me know if you'd like to see others from the series, since this project was quite a bit of fun for me. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. As always, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.